Hey guys, what's going on? So here's a setting that's going to make Killing Floor 3's visuals a whole lot better. What you want to do is go into settings, go to bloom and turn this off. You're going to make the effects a lot less distracting, and as a result the whole overall gameplay is a lot easier to read. I'm going to show you another example of this using the lights in this game. So if you look at the lights, this is with bloom enabled, and as you can see there's loads of effects and it can be quite distracting. So if you turn bloom off, this is the result, and again it's so much cleaner and it's a lot easier on the eyes. Anyway, that's the first tip. The second tip is really useful if you want to have more zombies on your screen. So we're going to use this mannequin as an example. Check out where the mannequin is on the left hand side of the screen. You'll notice he's just in the peripheral vision of our character here, but if we go down to the field of view and we put it on 90, this is a result. As you can see, he disappears from the screen. He is unable to be seen. That's because with the default field of view set on 90, the screen is too zoomed in to see your peripheral zombies. But if we put it up to 120, we can now see zombies all around us. It's going to help you have more zombies in your peripheral vision. Okay, what do you notice missing from this picture? Look at the center of the screen. Yes, there is no crosshair. So by default, there is no crosshair active in Killing Floor 3, but if you go into settings, turn it on, there we go, we have the crosshair back. And actually each weapon has its own crosshair. So this one has horizontal lines helping you line up those shots easier. This one has a wider crosshair, kind of like a circle type thing. This one has kind of square crosshair. And as you'll notice as well, when you are running, the crosshair gets bigger, indicating that you're going to be less accurate when you're running, but that's not really clear when the crosshair's off. So yeah, it's just, for me, again, it's a no-brainer. Turn on the crosshair. And it's just really a shame to miss out on all of those custom crosshairs for each weapon. Pretty much every weapon has its own unique crosshair. By the way, if you are wondering how I'm doing these unique reloading animations, what you do is press X to reload when you have full ammo, and each weapon actually has 2 of its own unique animations when you do this. Some even have 3, and I had an amazing time just in the firing range trying out all the unique animations for every weapon, even the daggers, which don't need reloading, but they're just fun to try out. I have a video on my channel of all of the unique reloading animations in this game, so make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that one. Next up, it's the all-important sensitivity settings, and for me, I like to add a bit onto these sensitivity settings, both the X and the Y axis, enabling you to do quick 180-degree turns. So this is it by default. So when you turn around, it's painfully slow, and imagine if there's a zombie you need to get to, it's not going to do the trick. So yeah, add about 20 onto the sensitivity settings, bringing it up to about 35 on the X and on the Y. In terms of the mouse, I also recommend putting about 20 onto the sensitivity settings, so maybe 35, 40 depending on your level of comfort, but definitely don't leave it on the default. It's just not quick enough when you're turning around, and turning around is something you're going to do a lot in this game. Zombies always have a habit of coming from behind, and then just when you've dealt with them, another horde of zombies are going to come from behind you, and you're always turning around to face that threat. So you need to be able to turn around in one swift movement. Now here's something interesting. What do you notice about this scene? If you were to say that it's slightly too dark, you would have a very good point. By default, the game is very dark, so I recommend going into the gamma settings and turning this up to about here. So hit the accept, and here's what we have: a much clearer result, much lighter without losing that atmosphere. So the game is still a horror game, but you can actually see what you're doing. Here's a setting that lets you potentially double your frame rate. So if you go into settings and turn VSync off, that's step 1, and step 2 is to go to frame rate cap and put this on uncapped. Now this is the best way to get the highest possible frame rate. If you go to the right of the screen and you look on the notes, under the frame rate cap it says, note, you may need to disable VSync to reach higher frame rates. Now VSync does work differently in different games, but according to the developer or whoever wrote this note, VSync is probably a bit of an inhibitor in this game, so if it's on, it might do more damage than it helps. shots. So yeah, I played around with it a bit. I turned VSync off and my frame rate added about 30 extra frames. So yeah, turn VSync off and put frame rate cap on uncapped. Another thing you want to do for the highest possible frame rate is put DLSS frame generation on auto. So this is it on auto, and the frames are as high as it can possibly be. But if we compare this to the setting on 2 times, so if we go to 2 times and we have a look here, it's slightly choppier, less responsive. So I put this on auto. The reason being, when it's on auto, I kind of just feel like the game can leave it up to itself and it can make the decision. Whereas if you force it to be on 2 times, it's working a bit harder and it just results in a slightly choppier frame rate. Now, I have to say, this does work differently on different devices, you know, depending on the power of your machine. And also, you might not have NVIDIA, you might have a different kind of machine. So yeah, test this out. But for me personally, I've got an NVIDIA laptop, and it really worked when I put on NVIDIA DLSS frame generation on auto. So that's the best way to get the highest frame rates. I also combine this with NVIDIA Reflex, which I enabled. So by default, it's disabled, but when you enable it and also add the boost, this is a lot better frame rate wise. According to the notes again, which are really helpful in the top right, it says allows you to measure and optimize latency. And it's really, it's actually quite hard to notice, but you can notice it if you're paying attention. It's just a lot more responsive. Again, the frame rate looks smoother, and also the input lag is, you know, it's almost imperceptible. So whatever you're doing on your controller, 1-to-1 matches what happens on the screen. If you take anything away from this video, take away this. Turn toggle crouch on. The reason for this is when you have toggle crouch off, you have to hold down the B button to crouch, and obviously this means your thumb is now resting on the B button and you can't use the right stick to look around. If you did want to look around, you have to take your thumb off the B button, put it on the right stick, and therefore you are no longer crouching because you have to hold the B button down to crouch. So if you turn toggle crouch on, then you can just press B once and now you can aim. You have your thumb full and ready to rest on the right thumbstick, and you can keep crouching and lining up those shots. Now, why would you want to crouch in this game? Well, for one, it makes you a smaller target, and number 2, I'm pretty sure your accuracy goes up. Now, I have nothing to confirm this, there are no stats, but I just feel it in my bones. You are more accurate when you crouch. So turn on toggle crouch. Here's a setting that's going to make your game look a whole lot better. This is the reflection method. Now put this on Lumen. When you put it on Lumen, you see all of these lovely reflections in the ground, and as you look all around, everything that is needed to be reflected is reflected. Now if you put this on SSR, those reflections are kind of there, but they also kind of disappear when you move around the world. And this just takes me right out of the world because reflections aren't meant to do this. So if you look on the floor again, those reflections are kind of disappearing as you move around. So make sure to put this on Lumen and you get a lot of lovely reflections. And if you're worried about this having an impact on the frame rate, by the way, don't worry about that because Lumen is a much more cost-effective method of reflecting objects in the game. It might add a few extra frames, but in my experience, it just makes the game look a lot nicer without having a drastic impact on the frame rate. Another visual setting that's going to take your game to the next level looks-wise is global illumination. So I'm going to show you what it looks like by default just to compare this screen with. So here we go, global illumination to none, and now look at the lighting. It's a lot more stark, it's a lot uglier in my opinion. So I'm going to show you this to contrast, put Lumen on, and there we go, a lot nicer. But I'm going to show you a different scene just to give you the full effect of global illumination. Next up, this might be a me thing, but I always like to turn subtitles on, and for some reason they are off by default in this game. So turn subtitles on and you get to see all of those lovely sound bites from the very colourful cast of characters in this game. And another reason I like to have subtitles on is because there's so much going on in the audio of this game. You've got this crunching metal music with the shredding electric guitars, and you've got you know, zombies roaring at you and firing guns, so it can be hard sometimes to hear actually what the characters are saying. So turn on those subtitles and you can get to hear all those funny voice lines. Okay, this next one is a bit of a weird one. This is camera bob. So if we turn camera bob off, we have a nice smooth camera, kind of looks like it's on rails, which is nice, you know, it's not disorientating, which camera bobs can sometimes do. So here's where it gets weird. If we turn camera bob to on, see if you can notice a difference in this, because I can't. So I'm going to run forward in a straight line. Notice the camera, nothing happens. The camera looks pretty much exactly the same. It's not bobbing up and down like you would have thought camera bobs would do. So what do you reckon's gone on here? I actually think the developers haven't implemented camera bob yet, despite it being an option in the game. It's still early days, maybe they will patch this in, but yeah, I don't think they've enabled this. Maybe I'm just not looking hard enough. Let me know if I'm wrong about this, but yeah, I don't think camera bob is enabled. Very weird. Speaking of weird ones, here's another one I can't really get my head around. This is screen shake. So if we go into the settings and we turn on screen shake, you would expect the screen to shake on an explosion, but see what just happened? Nothing happened to the screen. There was no shaking, there was no head bobbing. You know, grenades don't do anything, explosions from barrels don't do anything. So I think screen shake is another one the developers haven't actually implemented. So yeah, you're not going crazy if you've tried to have a little play around with this setting, it's just not there yet. The third and final setting that is weird in Killing Floor 3 is the lens flare. So if you look at any kind of lighting, you'll notice this kind of blur on the screen, and you would assume this is lens flare. So if you want to turn this off, you would again assume you go into the settings and turn off lens flare. But here's what happens. This is apparently lens flare off, nothing happens. Now what the game is doing is not terming this as lens flare, it actually terms this as bloom. So the game calls this bloom, not lens flare. So to turn it off, you turn off bloom and this turns off. Now I'm pretty sure that that is defined as lens flare, like any kind of flare from a lighting source, but lens flare doesn't actually do anything in the settings. So if you turn it on, if you turn it off, nothing happens. Instead, everything to do with lighting is coupled under the setting bloom. So if you want to turn off any kind of lens flare, all you have to do is turn off bloom rather than lens flare. In other words, lens flare seems to be a ghost setting in Killing Floor 3. It doesn't actually do anything. Here's another example of this. The cameras, if you turn on lens flare, there is no lens flare from the cameras, and you would expect out of anything in the game you should get lens flare from cameras, but no. Anyway, that's enough about settings that don't work. Here's a little fun thing I found. If you go up to any kind of breakable object with the knife out, you can break it just by walking into it. You don't have to swipe it. The blade is so sharp you can just poke it straight out like so. Kind of like that. Doesn't really do anything practical. It's just a fun little detail. Another little tip, and this is just kind of gameplay tips now, and your special devices last longer than you might think. They don't go away on a time basis, but on a kill basis. So it's not about how long they're out for, it's about how many kills you can get with them. So with this device, I actually can't find anyone, so the device sticks with me until it gets the requisite number of kills, then it goes away. The way you can use this to your advantage is you can get it out even if there's no enemies around, and you don't have to worry about wasting it. It's only going to go away when it gets those kills for you. Random tip number 3, make sure you put Zeds in each other's line of fire. So as you can see, the zombie in front got lit on fire by the zombie behind. For this, what I like to do is just kind of revolve around zombies and spin around them in a circle, and they're always going to get in each other's way and just start attacking each other and doing damage. With these flame-wielding zombies, here's an easy way to take them out. All you have to do is melee them. When you melee them, you stagger them, they turn around and expose their backs. All you have to do is shoot their backs, and the tank on their backs explodes. Very, very satisfying. And finally, unlocking each weapon's secondary fire. A lot of people seem to be missing that most weapons have secondary fire, and this is unlocked using RB. So if you press RB with this weapon, for instance, you can unlock a healing mode. This is the biomorphic boosted weapon which every class has access to. So if you press RB, you can actually heal your teammates using lovely blue projectiles, which heals them. To get more of these blue projectiles, you actually have to shoot using RT. So the more shots you get on target on enemies, the more you get these bullets transferred into healing bullets, which you can then use with RB. And that's just one example. Every weapon, I'm pretty sure in the game, has secondary function. So this is the pistol, you press RT to fire off regular bullets, and then you press RB to fire off healing rounds. That's the secondary function, and as you can see, the screen on this gun glows blue when you use that function. Anyway, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Killing Floor 3 guides.